What's up everyone, it's Benedict here, aka BHL Hudson. Welcome back to the BHL2 channel. Today we have a new 2026 movie review for you. We're talking Wuthering Heights from director Emily Fennell, starring Margot Robbie and Jacob Elordi. Apologies for my slightly disheveled appearance and raspy voice. I'm a bit under the weather, and Wuthering Heights did not do anything to improve my health or happiness. Going into this movie, I was actually quite excited for this. Some of you, if you watch my main BHL channel, you know it was on my most anticipated movies of the year list. It was like number 7 or something, which in hindsight seems silly. But I like Promising Young Woman. I think it's certainly not best screenplay worthy as it won at the Oscars, but I think it's an interesting film, if not very flawed. And Saltburn as well, I can definitely see why a lot of people hate it. I find it to be a very engaging, at the very least, a film that you can talk about afterwards. That's something I've liked about Emily Fennell's films, is that certainly not perfect, but they give you something to talk about. There's some discourse to be had, there's something to chew on there. And so I was excited for, what seemed like her biggest movie to date, Wuthering Heights, with these big stars and this classic literature. And I have to say, I was enormously disappointed. This movie fucking blows. This movie's very bad. I talked about 28 Years Later 2 earlier in the year, and I was thinking like, wow, a movie that's probably going to be on my top 10 best of the year list is coming out this early in the year. That's crazy. And I think we have one that will definitely be on my top 10 worst of the year list already coming out, because Wuthering Heights sucked some balls, hate to say it. Let's go through exactly what I did not like about this movie, and at the end also talk briefly about small things that I did like, but it's mostly going to be negative, hate to say it. But also the movie kind of sucked, so it sort of has to be. First of all, the main standout thing, the thing that kind of sinks the movie, is the combination of the performances and the characters. Now, I have to say, up top, I have not read Wuthering Heights, or if I have, it was a long time ago for some like class assignment. I do not remember it, so I'm not approaching this from a how accurate is it to the literature side of things. Although I can imagine just watching it, I was like, this seems, if I had read the book, this would offend me by how fucking bad this is. This feels like it is not living up to this this piece of work that I don't even know the ins and outs of. But the characters in this, basically the plot goes that Margot Robbie is Kathy and Jacob Elordi is Heathcliff. And Heathcliff is taken in by Margot Robbie's, vaguely rich sort of family. And they are childhood friends, and there's some, sort of romantic connection there. And then things can't work out because he's just a lowly servant boy or whatever, and Margot Robbie has to marry someone rich to make money for her family. And so there's a falling out, and then a return, and etc., etc. Forbidden love. Do they get together? Do they get married? Will things end happily for them? We'll see. It's a love story of sorts. I think a love story, something that helps a love story, is if the characters aren't the most insufferable, unlikable human beings like ever put to film. That would go a long way in making you care a little bit about the drama there, whether or not they're gonna get together, whether or not, just to care if these characters end up happy or not. And Kathy and Heathcliff in this are two of the most unlikable characters I've ever seen. There is, after the movie, my friend Freddie, who I saw it with, he said there were no redeeming qualities to them, and I'm like, yeah, there were not. And again, I haven't read the book, but I find it hard to imagine that this classic, romance tale is like this in the book. Because at the start of the film, Margot Robbie's Kathy. It starts when they're kids, but when Margot Robbie comes on, as adults, I guess, it seems like they're supposed to be younger than clearly, they're both like 30 or something. But Margot Robbie is like incredibly bratty and unpleasant and selfish and just horrible and annoying as well. And I was thinking like, okay, I guess this is part of the arc of the film. She starts completely insufferable and, she will have some kind of development. No, not really. Stays insufferable throughout. Jacob Elordi's Heathcliff, also just a terrible person in a way that's clearly meant to be like sexy. It's like, oh, he's such a bad boy or whatever. And maybe I'm not the target demo to appreciate that. We'll talk about how sexy or unsexy the movie is in a minute. But I was just like, oh, you're the worst. Like I beyond the, bad boy sexiness of it all. It's just like in the actual story, you're a fucking terrible you're both terrible people. You both treat everyone around you terribly. You don't seem to grow in any meaningful way in this respect. Like, you seem to remain terrible, and I don't care about you guys getting together in the end. I guess I won't spoil it, but there are emotional beats towards the end where you're supposed to be, your heart's supposed to be ripped in half by what's happening with these characters. I'm like, neither of you deserve happiness. You're the worst. Yeah, so that's a problem off the bat. I hated the characters. And the performances, considering this is, a pretty prestige cast, Margot Robbie, Jacob Elordi, embarrassing performances. The first word that came to mind when I was watching Margot Robbie's performance was embarrassing. This is like, yeah, she's not done any favors by, again, the writing and how, the film is done and how awful her character is. But she is shockingly bad, for someone who has been great in a number of films. She's just unconvincing, and it feels like you're watching someone, again, maybe it's this bratty character, but you're watching someone perform a selfish, horrible character. There are moments that are quite cringy with her acting, where you're rolling your eyes. And Jacob Elordi is honestly worse. He makes one fucking face the entire time. He's doing this, like, I don't know, it doesn't help that he has that, like, Justin Bieber-ass haircut throughout the latter part of the film. But he's making this just, like, pouty, shitty, like, puckered lips face the entire time. He delivers all of his lines the same way. And, I've seen him be good in things, so I'm leaning more towards that's the direction and what they wanted to do with the character. But it makes him entirely uncompelling as a character. It makes the movie quite funny at times, because it's like, it's just, again, embarrassing. It's an embarrassing duo of the worst characters performed terribly in a love story that is not well written, you don't care about. And I guess we can move on to the next thing, which is the movie is so fucking boring. I referred to this as a torturous experience afterwards to Freddie. Just a drag. I think on Letterboxd I called this the Joker 2 of 2026, and that's how I feel about it, because Joker 2, honestly, probably not even as bad as this. I don't remember being this, like, actively bored and restless in a movie in a very long time. Like, I fucking love movies. I watch movies every fucking day. I sit through a lot of movies. I was, like, getting, like, the jumpy leg kind of feel in this movie, because it was so meandering and just, it feels like nothing happens. It feels like you're stuck in this, I say this negatively, this, like, dream-like film. I love a dream-like movie where it's like, time is nothing and where are we going, whatever. Not in a good way. It feels like you're just stuck in this boring bullshit. It doesn't help that you don't care about the romance, but then it just is so pretentious. It insists upon itself, if I were to quote the great Peter Griffin. It is just an excruciating experience, at least it was for me. There was never a moment when I felt any other emotion than boredom, occasionally a little bit of amusement from how bad it was, but mostly unrest. Like, I didn't feel happy to be there, which again is so surprising for Emerald Fennell. Say what you want about Saltburn, and I've heard lots of very, very valid criticisms of how it's trying too hard, it's very surface level, it's goofy how, like, fake edgy it is and gross and whatever. But at least I was entertained by Saltburn. I was there for the whole movie. When he's, having sex with the grave or whatever, that was at least, that was something was happening on screen, you know what I mean? Something to talk about. This, I was not entertained. And again, that would be fine if it was like a beautiful drama, but it also was not that. So what I'm left with is like, okay, at least, is there something about this that engages me? And there was not. There was, large stretches of this film that I found to be quite painful to sit through. And it's just also such a shallow film. I have not read the book again, so I can't comment on how much more shallow it is than that, but I would put a fair amount of money on the book having more nuance to it. I know there's a whole controversy about how Heathcliff is black in the book. I found this out like a few days ago. And that I could imagine adds some more subtext and substance to this, relationship and romance beyond just these two awful people, want to be together, but can't, but sort of can, but hate each other and are the worst. And and beyond that, there's lots of things in romance movies. You can watch many different romance movies where you can add some kind of depth to it. There's no interesting commentary. There's no anything to hold on to. It is pure, vapid, surface level stuff without being entertaining. When I saw a review of this, they called it like the first, we finally have a smooth brain version of Wuthering Heights. I thought like, okay, well, at least, maybe it'll be kind of fun. It is not. I don't know how you make something this surface level and also this boring. That's, I guess it makes sense, but it's a bit puzzling. Excuse me. And I will also say, like, and maybe this is on me for having expectations too high. And I'm not saying I was going into this with the intent of seeing like a 50 Shades style movie. I'm not that bothered about that. But I had heard like quotes and reviews. I remember I saw something of like audiences are shocked by Wuthering Heights, how, salacious and crazy this movie is. Not remotely salacious and crazy. Saltburn. That is a movie that has, you can think it's goofy, a lot of, weird shit going on. He's having sex with a grave, the licking of the tub scene. You know what I mean? There's stuff there that at the very least for most people will be a bit shocking, a bit off-putting. There is basically nothing in here. There is, nothing of that variety. And when they do, there are like 2 bits maybe that are like that. And when they're in there, because the rest of the movie is this boring, nothing, kind of pretentious, whatever, it feels so out of place. There's a scene in this, without spoiling it, I guess, where someone is acting like a dog in some kind of like BDSM type way. And it's so out of place with the rest of the movie. It feels like a 2026 movie scene. Like, it feels like 2026 actors dressed up in this, whatever 1800s style garb doing this scene. It doesn't fit with the movie at all, and it's so kind of embarrassing. Every scene that is sort of some kind of 50 Shades, BDSM, whatever, feels like a quota or something, where Emerald Fennell was like, okay, I made Saltburn, I make like the crazy sex movies, I gotta throw in like some crazy sex stuff in this. And it was, yeah. No, there was nothing in that regard, really. Yeah. And I'm sure there are people who will find various aspects of the Jacob Elordi, Margot Robbie thing sexy and psychologically stimulating in many ways. But I just think, again, it's so shallow. It's like The Housemaid-esque. I saw The Housemaid, and that felt like a TikTok book adaptation, like I think Freddie, after we saw this movie, said like it felt like a Wattpad fan fiction brought to life. And again, that can be, if you find that titillating, cool, but I mean, there is nothing of any substance there. Even in a sexy way, I felt like there was nothing beyond the surface level. Look, it's Jacob Elordi, and he's big and smoldering and hulking, and there's Margot Robbie, and she's, breathing heavily, and, and there we go, that's it. Like, it's just so basic. I don't know why I'm like going in depth on my criticisms of like the film's sexiness, but I feel like it was sold as this sexy movie, the posters and all this stuff, and the taglines with the winky, whatever the fuck the tagline is. I feel like I'd been misled in that in that regard. I feel like it was sold, not incorrectly, I guess, because I guess people are gonna go see it, but I don't think it was sold honestly. Also, by the way, I just remembered on performances. The fucking dad in this movie, Margot Robbie's dad in this movie, hilariously bad performance. The dad is like chewing the scenery, like Monty Python-esque performance from this dad character. Hilariously bad. The visuals in the movie, this was something I was actually very excited for, because again, Saltburn has some pretty spectacular visuals. And you can say, again, they're sort of shallow and surface level. Maybe they're more like desktop saver visuals where they look cool, but do they really mean much? That kind of thing. But I appreciated that, again, it was part of what made that movie, kind of stimulating and interesting, was that it had these great shots in it. And the trailer for this looked like it had, similar cinematography, at least, similarly interesting cinematography. And I suppose it is shot well, but it never stood out to me in the same way as Saltburn did. It just, I guess because I was not into the movie in general, but I felt like it just kind of washed over me. Because, there are scenes with great colors and, framing and silhouettes and whatever. But it just, I don't know. Yeah, it never stood out to me in the way. There were shots in the trailer that when I saw them in the trailer, I was like, wow, that's a pretty impressive shot. When it was in the film, I was like, oh, okay, yeah, I guess he's standing against like a red, sunset background. Okay, I mean, it is what it is. Yeah, visuals are not bad. I'm not complaining specifically, but it did not do as much for me as I thought they would. And last thing I'll say here, just, I've sort of touched on this with the performances and the characters, but just the lines and the deliveries and the faces they make and the self-importance and the Charlie XCX music, which I like Charlie XCX's music. I was here for this. I was like, you know what? They're making like a weird TikTok version of fucking Wuthering Heights where it's Emerald Fennell and Charlie XCX. Sure, why not? It could be like style. I'm open to stylistic interpretations of, classic literature. But it did not, it did not come together here, where it takes itself, quite seriously a lot of the time in a way that I think, but then at other moments it takes itself very it's sort of winking at the audience. There's a scene where Isabella, another character in the movie, gives like Margot Robbie a book, and it has like a, you know, a pop-up thing that looks like a penis, and it has like a thing that looks like a vagina or whatever. And it's sort of, again, that's like kind of a funny, self-aware, tongue-in-cheek moment. And it has like a couple of those throughout. The dog scene was a little bit like that. And then the rest of it is like so blindingly sincere and like poorly done. And I don't know, maybe I didn't get it. Maybe it was more tongue-in-cheek than I'm giving it credit for, but it just felt so, laughable at times, like the way it was done. And like there's a big dramatic moment, and then this Charlie XCX music starts playing, and I just thought that was, goofy as well. Just didn't work for me, just didn't come together in the way that I think it was meant to, or might for some people, I don't know. I will say, to close it out here with some positives, they're basically two positives here, but there are a couple of lines that I think are pretty decent, and I'm going to assume they're from the book, but I don't know for sure. But there are a couple of romantic lines. You know, there's one towards the end about loving you forever, and then even more than forever. So, you know, I'm paraphrasing. It was better than that. But, you know, there are some lines in there that are like, okay, that's a pretty good line. There are specific moments that are decent. There's a bit towards the end, a sort of shot, I'm blanking on the wording for it, hard cutting to another shot, basically, match cutting. And, you know, that's, in the context of the thing, again, I was not invested in this story, but I was like, okay, that's like a decent way of doing that moment. The opening, like the literal opening moments of the movie, I thought that was pretty clever. I guess I won't spoil it, but it's a subversion of expectations or something, and I thought that was pretty clever. And there's a moment with a dollhouse where Margot Robbie and this Isabella character, she's made them out of dolls, and she puts them in a dollhouse, and then like the shot is them standing in front of the dollhouse, but they kind of look like dolls, and it's, you know, a bit of a, I thought that was like well done. That was clever. And one of those like cool shots where maybe it felt a bit more like it wasn't just cool for the sake of being visually cool, but it was sort of, you know, had some point to the context of the scene. So those individual moments, those were pretty good. But overall, Wuthering Heights was a miserable experience for me. I was very disappointed with this film. I did have some expectations, but even my like leveled expectations of, this will probably be kind of goofy, but it'll be a bit of fun, were not met. It wasn't like good, and then it wasn't even sort of interesting or fun. It was mostly boring, at times goofy, poorly done. 1 star feels a bit harsh. Like, it's not the worst movie I've ever seen, but in terms of, honestly, cinema experiences I've had lately, it is one of the worst, for sure. I mean, I had, a bit of fun because I was with my friend Freddie, but I don't know. It was, I think I'm going 1 star. I think I'm saying 1 star for Wuthering Heights. Maybe that'll change with time. And by the way, these are my humble opinions. Perhaps you will enjoy it more than I do, and I hope you do. I hope everyone has fun whenever they go to the movies. But I did not feel, I didn't like it, in case you couldn't tell. Anyway, those are my thoughts on Wuthering Heights. What did you think of it? If you've seen it, do you agree with me or disagree with me? I welcome disagreements, that's fine, of course. But you can let me know down below in the comments. While you're at it, be sure to like this video, hit the subscribe button, check out my main channel, BHL Hudson, my podcast with my friend Freddie, who I saw this with, the Poorly Planned Podcast. We will be talking about this, I'm sure. You can check out my Instagram, BHL_Hudson, and my Letterboxd, Real BHL Hudson. Thank you for watching. I'll see you next time.